Cinema St. Louis's The Lens is now the takeup.com, a place to gather after the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and fear not, all your favorite episodes of The Lens featuring all your favorite guests are still here in your feed, just a little refocused. Stay subscribed to us here for future episodes, and you can follow along for new ones and more at the Takeup STL. Thank you for joining us on The Lens, a Cinema St. Louis podcast. I'm Joshua Ray, programmer and critic, and today I am joined by Andrew Wyatt, my editor and critic over at The Lens. Hey, Andrew.
Hello.
You can find all of our words at The Lens on cinemastlouis.org. Every episode, we take turns picking a film to focus on in our current mini-series. On this episode, we've got Jason Bollinger from the Cinema Spin podcast, who has selected Emily the Criminal starring Aubrey Plaza as his gem of 2022. Then the last half of the episode, Andrew and I are going to break down our favorite films of the year. We're going to top 10 of 2022. So this episode, I spend 1 week in Europe, and I cannot speak English anymore. You know,
you're like Madonna. You come back with that,
but I come back with French accent. It was funny. My French boyfriend. That's why I went over there to one, see France, two, meet his parents and spend Christmas there. But everyone kept coming up to me, and then I asked his friend, and he said, "Your brand of hipster is very French." Is that what does that mean?
That coming from a French person sounds like a compliment to me, but I don't know.
But everything they say sounds like both a compliment and a dig.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why I didn't want to come back. It was just like perfect for me. But I had to come back. One, record the podcast. Two, I'm not a citizen. Jason,
you record the podcast from anywhere, right?
Yeah, and I have, and it was difficult. The voice you're hearing that is not Andrew or Kayla is Jason Bollinger of the Cinema Spin podcast.
That's
Hi,
right.
Jason.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I am pretty good. I am fighting my Christmas cold, and then there's Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Hello, Andrew. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I've been on Cinema Spin before, but can you tell, what's your elevator pitch for it?
Okay, well, me and my friend, and co-host Matt, every week we pick a new movie to watch, and we pick an older movie, randomly from the past. We have our great randomizer picks just some movie. It could be anything, it could be some, an action movie. It could be a musical. It could be whatever. But we every week we cover a new movie, an old movie, and an old movie randomly chosen. So this week, for instance, we're doing the new movie Megan. The internet sensation. And also we're pairing that with the movie randomly chosen was Flashdance from 19. So
I love that this is not the usual thematic pairing. It's literally arbitrary.
No. Although this week dancing, I guess, is a theme.
Well, that's the thing. Does it kind of usually shake out that you find some thread of connection?
Well, the human mind, of course, looks for connections, even when it sees connections, even when they aren't there. It's long been a discussion about whether or not the randomizer is trying to tell us something, because there seems to be patterns in the randomly selected movies that the randomizer selects. So it seems to have a fixation on Carol O'Connor for some reason.
It's like me when I was 8 years old and all I had was WGN, because just in the heat of the night.
Over and over again.
Oh, right. So yes. We have a lot of fun with it every week. So that's Cinema Spin podcast. You can find that at the usual places. So we just did our 100th episode, by the way.
Oh, that's right.
Congrats.
And you guys did Babylon, right?
Yes, we did Babylon. Yes.
Mm.
And we then we went over our picks for the top 5 best and worst movies that we've watched over the course of the podcast. So
Very interesting. I haven't listened to it yet. I'm going to have to dig a little bit because at the end of this episode, or the back half of this episode, Andrew and I are going to count down our personal top 10s.
okay.
So we'll have to compare lists. Did
Okay.
Babylon make anyone's list?
No, Babylon was not enjoyed by either me or my co-host.
Same.
Same. Right.
In the episode I was on, what did we did Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I'm gonna guess are going to talk about on this episode, and Urban Cowboy, a film we will not talk about on this episode. Unless we find a connection with Emily the Criminal. Entirely possible. All right. This mini-series, we are doing the gems of 2022. We're talking about overlooked, underseen films from last year. It's already last year. So far, we have covered Katie Carter came on and we did Strawberry Mansion. Drew and Billy from Do You Like Apples? And we covered After Yang. And now, Jason, you are bringing us an Emily the Criminal.
Hi, I paid $400 and it was never applied to my balance. Sorry, how much interest is being added a month? How are you? I need a real job, just to pay my loans.
Emily, yo, let me hook you up.
So, why? Why Emily?
Well, there are 2 ways I can answer that question. One is, why do I love this movie so much? And the second is, why is this movie overlooked? To answer the first question, I love this movie so much because I don't know if you've caught up with it yet, but it is just a solid piece of filmmaking. It's wonderfully indie in the old sort of 90s kind of do it yourself, get some good actors together, make a gritty kind of sleazy little crime movie, right? Just get it out there for cheap and just do everything perfect, right? Make a genre movie, and that is on the one hand formulaic, but formulaic in the best sense, where it hits the beats and makes is all very satisfying. So the movie, the setup for the movie is that Aubrey Plaza plays the titular Emily, who is saddled with this crushing student loan debt for a degree that she didn't finish.
Word.
She works at a dead end job. She doesn't even tell people what she does for a living. It's a catering company. Yeah. She gets a line on what can only be described as a career opportunity. She goes to this little pitch meeting in the back of this seedy little store, and somebody says to her, in the next hour, you will make $200 cash, but you will have to do something illegal. You won't have to hurt anyone, but you won't be in danger, but you will be breaking the law. And what she has done is she has found her way into, not to ruin anything, but into pretty low-level but lucrative property crime scam. And now this can be lucrative depending on how ambitious you're going to be. And one of the central questions of the movie, the fascinating question of the movie, is how ambitious is Emily? You would think this woman working a dead-end job at a catering company isn't ambitious, but first-time director here,
John Ford.
John Ford, right? And Aubrey Plaza do really well. Is they introduce us to this character. We think we know this character well, but she keeps surprising us because she keeps surprising herself. And the ways in which information about her is doled out very, very judiciously, and the ways in which Ford plays with our expectations about who she is and where she's going and what she's really like under there is really just a clinic in screenwriting, I think, right? And this is Exhibit A. When people complain they don't make movies like they used to, back in the Tarantino days, I say Emily the Criminal happens. Mm-hmm. And now the question is, to answer the second reason why Emily the Criminal is, why is this movie overlooked? And this is what I want to put to you guys. You guys know a little something about the marketing and distribution of movies, right? So you tell me, this movie was a big deal coming out of Sundance last year. I saw the very awesome trailer for this movie at least 5 times over the summer. And then what? Then for 1 week in October, this played once a day after 9 p.m. in Marcus Warenberg theaters, right? And then disappeared from the face of the earth until it showed up on Netflix at the beginning of this month, right?
So, but that's the interesting thing that's happened is that now it feels like people are really watching Emily the Criminal. Is it not currently in the top 10 of Netflix's films? That's what's wild about this, is that our culture has shifted so much, and the way that people consume media has shifted so much, that this is now the type of film that if it's on a list of things on your TV, you're going to click it and you're going to want to watch it. You're interested in Aubrey Plaza. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I was gonna say, look at the exact same thing happened with The Menu last week, where it kind of didn't light any fires.
It did good. It did okay.
It did okay, but then it hit HBO Max, and suddenly everybody seemed to be talking about it.
Yeah,
right. And so, it's hard to say when you picked this, because we were talking about you coming on a month or 2 ago. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Now, hey, great timing, Jason, because a lot of people are going to be watching.
Well, now everybody can see it. I had to wait for a couple months to even tell anybody. It was a very frustrating experience. I can't. People are often ask me, who've been in this situation, well, what movie should I be watching? Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to see Emily the Criminal, but where is it? The Menu, at least, followed the sort of HBO Max model of like, okay, real quick release in theaters, and then immediately kind of dropped streaming. And the Emily the Criminal seemed to be a lot more haphazard than that. It's like they were embarrassed. It's like they were embarrassed to release it theatrically, and didn't have a
small distributor, right? It's IFC. They've never really been able to distribute wide, even when they got substantial awards traction with a film like Boyhood, which was released by IFC. For them to be able to distribute it on a wide level was still very difficult. And for them to be able to market things like that, it's been a very long time since IFC had that kind of machine behind it. Yeah. So when you have something like Netflix, which is a dearth of good material, I'm sorry. I cannot wait for Netflix to turn on their password sharing prohibition, because I will turn it off. I'll turn it off and someone else gets to pay for it, and I'll never look at it again. I don't need to watch any more Too Hot to Handle.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
I might.
No, I mean, I see what you're saying, though, because I don't know, compared to where things were, say, 10 years ago, I think that there are less movies like this are showing on less screens in a medium-sized city like ours. I think that people's willingness to venture out, like, it's almost becomes like a negative feedback loop. The theaters don't book it. So, like, unless I was willing to go to Roddy's or like one theater in St. Louis to drive to this one theater at one time during a narrow, like, 7-day window. What if I had stuff going on like those? I'm like, I'm a film critic. I see tons of films, but even I couldn't go to see this. Like, I didn't see this in the theater just because it was there and it was gone. I didn't.
And by the time once a day, I can't at 9 o'clock. I can't emphasize that enough. It was like behind the green door, right?
Yeah. So I think. I feel
like I should be seeing this movie in a trench coat, right?
Right. It's feels something dirty, but there's a negative feedback loop right there. But audiences won't turn out for a movie that's hard to see. Like, availability. We talked about this with Memorial last year, Josh, with like making a movie hard to see doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit the distributor,
because no one gets to see it.
Yeah.
And they trust their friends who have seen it. They trust people they talk to who have seen it.
And there's also this, I don't think so much among like serious cinephiles, but I think among a wider audience, there's this idea that if it's only playing on one screen once a day, it can't possibly be good, right?
Right.
Exactly. And here's the difference, because you bring up Memoria, and that was sort of this legendary movie last year that nobody could figure out where or when it was ever going to play, right? But also you can see with distributors, it's not exactly clear who besides us are going to go see Memoria, right? Where on the other hand, a movie like Emily the Criminal has a lot of commercial potential, right? It has a major star. It has, or for at least a cult,
on its scale. That's why it's successful on Netflix right now.
Well, right. It had a fantastic preview, right? This movie, it was shot for $2 million. It ended up barely breaking even, clearing on that. That trailer alone ought to could make you $10 million just from curiosity about, oh, well, that looks like a really good movie, and oh, that's playing now. Right. I mean, people saw like I said, people saw the trailer all summer, right? And then you're wondering what happened to this movie if they just showed it a few more times a day and advertised it a little bit. I don't know.
But let's accentuate the positive. Let's be happy that now a bajillion people can see it because it's on Netflix.
Yeah,
and it's in their top 10. Did you say that? It's popular now or so.
Yeah. Well, good.
Someone, two different people on either side of me on the plane. They were watching it, and I was like,
okay, good.
Really?
I wanted to turn to them and say, yeah, I'm supposed to watch that for my podcast. And I'm like, all right.
Didn't get to it, did you, Joshua?
I didn't want to watch it on a plane. I didn't feel like I would give it enough energy on the plane.
Yeah.
Do you know what's a good plane movie? Babylon. Because if you're trapped and have nowhere to go. Anyway, so yes, I think we can all agree this is not the ideal situation, and this film deserves more than that. And
it deserves more than that. It could have been so much more.
Andrew, do you agree that it deserves more than that, or is it a streamer?
I don't know. These kinds of questions are difficult for me to answer, and I'm sort of like, does anything deserve anything?
I think film deserves a theatrical screening. Let's say that. We deserve to see it as big as possible.
Yeah. I think that I'm glad people discover it. I can't go, I'm a nobody who has no power to control how movies are distributed and seen. I just try to tell people what I like. And I did like this. I'm going to recommend it to folks. So it's a good pick. I appreciate it. But yeah, I literally saw it on Netflix on Friday night. That's how I saw it because I blinked and it vanished from theaters. I had it in my mind. I think a lot of people, I had in my mind, oh, this looks interesting. I want to check it out. Oh crap. If I had, I've got a kid, I've got a job, I've got other responsibilities. So if I can't get out to the theater during this very narrow window to this one place, I can't see it. Ugh. So, but it is what it is. What we can sit here. I think that there is a sort of gloom and doom aspect to this. It's a very film Twitter conversation, right? That we talk about the death of cinema and the rise of streaming and how the markets are changing and the business is changing. But I do think that it kind of creates this doom and gloom feedback loop among people who are serious cinephiles. And I do it too, and I try to resist it because I don't think it's not helpful to complain about how movies are being distributed. All we can do is try to emphasize good cinema when we find it. This is a good series for us at the end of the year, beginning of the year, because that's exactly what we're doing here. We're kind of trying to elevate things that people may not have seen in theaters.
Yeah. Not only is this movie, did I find this movie incredibly entertaining and very artistic, the subject matter couldn't be more timely. As we as a nation are struggling with a generation and now maybe two generations who are basically indentured servants because they took out student loans to cover a media communications degree or a philosophy degree or something like that. That is not that's not exactly paying the bills, right?
It is two generations now too, because it is two generations. I mean, Aubrey Proudsley's she's 38, she's almost 40. So this is really a movie about a mid to late millennial.
Yeah.
Who is, and we can get into that, but part of the subtext here is her embarrassment about that her peers have moved, some of her peers, like her best friend, for example, have moved past her. And she doesn't betray an intense shame about that, but there's a self-consciousness about how she has been drugged down by this mountain of debt and little things in her life not going necessarily the way she thought they would.
And I know people like that. I know one person in particular like that. who is, and this isn't like other debt. This doesn't. This you can't just erase this with bankruptcy or something like that. They will garnish her wages, right? There's no way. This is old school. You must pay the rent shit from the 16th century, right?
So clearly, the only option is to go into hiding in Mexico as a career criminal.
Well,
spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Well, but this is. I should say that this is a spoiler podcast, so we do talk about.
Oh, okay.
All these movies.
Everything's on the table.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
So for me, the thing there's a few things that are really working here, and it's the kind of film that I miss, and that's what you're saying, Jason, too. It's like,
yeah, right.
So one, it's a genre exercise. The genre being a thriller, right?
Right.
It's a noir contingent crime thriller. Second, it's a character piece.
Yes.
And the character emerges through these genre elements. So, so whatever the structure is of the crime thriller, the person under duress becomes extra person, right?
Right. Yes.
So
the Michael Corleone.
Right. And then it's a modestly made film that understands its ambitions and meets those.
Yes.
So I could watch 1,000 of these.
Yes.
I think it is a modest film, and I'm fine with it being like that. Does it make a few moves here and there where I'm like, whatever? But it is the kind of film that I wish we had many more of. So I do want to start with Emily and really dig into that situation, but also that character in that situation, because what she drives the plot, right? She is the one who makes these decisions based upon the experiences that she's had and the one that she's having. And the main one, seemingly, that she has this crushing debt. There's other things at work there too. Right. Why does she have the crushing debt? So there's a lot that's sort of it is subtextual, and that the thing that you mentioned, Jason, is that he's doling out information.
Right.
And of course, there's a key revelation towards the end of the film. I don't know. It just reminded me, and I think it's kind of explicitly reminding me of Cassavetes' Gloria, and then Eric Zwanka's pseudo remake with Tilda Swinton, Julia. And of course, now we have Emily. So it reminds me of those kind of character pieces as genre film, especially like women under the crazy influence, like women under the external influence.
And under pressure.
Yeah. Women under the influence and on the verge of a nervous breakdown with a gun.
And it's not just the debt, right? It's and it's not even necessarily her, putting aside her personal history, it's the context of the debt at this particular moment in history and the sensation that she's experiencing. And I think a lot of the other as she sort of gets into the underworld, the other underworld characters kind of have express the same idea, sometimes subtly, but the idea of the game being rigged. The idea, it's not just that you have $70,000 of debt, it's that you have $70,000 debt and there's no way ever to crawl out from underneath it. There's a very key interview scene, I think around the 2/3 mark, where she goes into they've been talking about this interview for a long time. She finally goes into her friend's business what kind of company is it? I've already forgotten.
I think
it doesn't really matter. It's a it's a more prestigious,
I think.
It's a more prestigious white collar job.
Yeah.
And like she runs headlong into the thing that pretty much anybody under 30 can tell you about, which is the internship.
The unpaid internship.
The catch-22 of the unpaid internship. And so it isn't just debt, it's debt as a trap, a debt that's been surrounded by booby traps to ensure that you can't leave it. And that's the very specific, it's weird to talk about that because it doesn't necessarily come off as an overtly political film, but it absolutely is set in that political context and that modern where we are right now.
Absolutely. And it's strange to me that there haven't been more movies to take on this very issue.
I think we can think of a few. I can think of Magic Mike as a film about living in this. I'm sure there are other and that's the thing, is that I want it to come through in genre. I don't want it to come through in a talking head documentary. Like I
Yeah,
want
right,
to live
exactly.
in these stories because I can identify with these people. I
I
think
think you can argue that Sean Baker's films
absolutely
kind of
both
have
of
that same vibe.
Yeah.
Tangerine, Florida Project.
Mhm.
Oh, The Dick.
Red
The
Rocket.
Dick? Red Rocket. Sorry. It's just called The Dick now. Good.
Yeah, I
Jessica,
mean, we've
don't
seen
cut
it
that out.
as a kind of central motivation to explain why why characters are sort of
Yeah.
caught.
But even like they
But
coexist, right? Like it's happening because of it, but it's also like it spurs the plot.
yeah, I just I haven't seen many what I don't see a lot of is the stories of somebody like Emily who is caught at this. She's not exactly poor, but she's just really, really struggling, right? Or you wouldn't consider her poverty stricken, right? But she's just
Right.
at the very lowest end of making ends meet, right?
Yeah.
And if this character were a little different, if she were a guy, right? Or if she were black or a minority or something like that, or any other elements, this would change the underlying kind of dynamics and politics of it. And I think it's very important that she is a white, a pushing 40 young woman.
Art school dropout. That like is a very specific set of expectations. And that creates the tension right in those early scenes when she first sits down for that,
that wonderful opening scene.
Part of the tension comes from, oh, I don't belong here, or maybe I don't belong here because of who I am, because of my, like, this is not for, there's that feeling that tingle initial of, ooh, this is not for me. This is not something I should.
Right, and the wonder of, well, why isn't it for you?
Yeah.
Well, that gets to the race issue, and I'm glad that you brought that up, is because everyone else in the room is of color. Like there's one other white person in there, and so yes, around the edges of this film, you do see a political context that goes into intersectionality of race, class, gender, and I love that it is just sort of on the edges. What makes me nervous about that, though, is like, you have to have a white character as your sort of like way in. Is that like why?
I think
we have a million crime thrillers though. Like there's lots of movies about lots of people, right?
I think if she were, I think if, for instance, she were black, that would introduce the opening a totally different element and a real red herring in the initial job interview scene. It would change the dynamic of the job interview, and it would set up the expectation, I think, in most people's minds these days, that a big, the reason she's nervous in that scene is partly because she's self-conscious about her race, right?
I see what you're saying.
And so
it's like that absence
of
that race says something.
Yeah, that we look at her and we say, you're white, you're pretty, you have a lot of advantages, and yet she is caught in this hamster ball the same way that that so many other people are.
Well,
right?
and
it's
the
not
film,
enough, her privileges are not enough to get her out of this this capitalist puzzle box.
And the film throws that back in her face, literally. I mean, her best friend, who's trying to get her a job, is played by an American Nigerian actress. So in the context of the film, she's a black woman who has made it. And then later she has that pivotal scene with Gina Gershon's character, the supervisor, who sort of throws her womanhood back in her face and says, well, I did it. What's your problem here?
Right.
So there's this idea that Emily's also surrounded by signifiers that are telling her, well, why are you struggling? You shouldn't be struggling. You had all these advantages. What's your problem, Emily?
Right.
There's this, and there's a defensiveness, there's a defensive crouch, which I think I'll be positive is really good at conveying in this film. There's a defensive crouch in her attitude through the whole movie about her circumstances and what she's doing there.
Yeah, I think that you're exactly spot on with that.
And then, of course, the enterprise that she gets involved with is run by Middle Eastern men, and her involvement with that, I think, kind of furthers that, because even within that, she's sort of the outsider. And it feels several times throughout the film that she's actually able to leverage who she is and her social identities against other people. And yeah, there's a complexity there that is so rich that isn't labored. I think is the important part. It's still like a crackling genre exercise, and a character study. But it's not labored like, I'm gonna call this, like, I don't know, killing them softly is what comes to mind immediately. I know you like that movie.
Yeah, you don't have to highlight anything or underline anything or put anything in a weird font.
It's smart writing.
I don't
and
need
smart
Trump
acting.
on the TV.
Yeah, it's smart writing and smart acting combined together. I think of that scene to the point of the group that she gets involved with. I think of that scene where her boyfriend takes her to visit his mom. And it kind of plays as this. Well, the other thing that I think is interesting is that the director made the decision not to subtitle any of the Arabic, which is nice because it puts us in Emily's headspace. She doesn't understand what they're saying. But there's that scene at the where they're sitting outdoor on the patio or whatever, and he introduces her mom, and it's playing as this very almost kind of sweet romantic film where like, oh, this is like an Arab American man taking his white girlfriend home to see his mom, and they're trying to introduce her and make her feel comfortable, and the mom and the girlfriend are kind of starting to commiserate a little bit, and then there's the tension of the brothers arriving, and the way that, again, without the film belaboring it, because it's well written and well acted and well shot, we can feel the energy in the air change completely the minute those two brothers enter the little garden there and sit down and make themselves comfortable, and suddenly the whole dynamic has shifted. That's just good filmmaking right there in that shift.
And there's a key element of great thrillers, and that's performing and performance as a survival tactic. That she is not really his girlfriend. He asks her to do that as a favor. Of course, they've already been biblically knowing each other, and it's palpable, the romance between them. But throughout this film, she is tasked with performing as other, and under the 8 minutes, the 8-minute scene where she's given the second job. So the first job is kind of petty larceny, right? The next job is purchasing what kind of car is that? What kind of car? Anybody know? Maserati? I'm just saying cars. I don't know.
Fancy expensive car. That's all we do.
Fancy, very expensive car with a black Amex, which means no limit, baby, fake one. And she's got 8 minutes to do it. She knows she has 8 minutes to do it because they've done this sort of things before. And once you run that card, that credit card company is going to inquire about that purchase with the seller within 8 minutes. So not only does she have to buy a car, meaning like sign a bunch of paperwork, and she has to perform as someone who's trying to buy a car within 8 minutes. You know how well that goes for Janet Leigh in Psycho, which like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing. But then she has to like go get the car, and you're like, I watched this with my boyfriend, and we were both like, this is not going to end well for her. This can't end well for her.
And again, smart filmmaking. So like one thing that scene does, as she's going out to get the car, her eyes flick and she looks at the gate. The gate is open. Like that's
how smart she is.
The movie doesn't have to tell us that. It's just that's smart filmmaking right there.
Yes. Right. And it's a smart way to indicate your character is smart.
Aubrey Plaza does some great work in that scene in particular, but throughout the whole movie, really, so it's often boring when you have an actor or a director who isn't interesting. It's boring to watch characters react to things. But so much of this movie is watching her face when she's not talking, watching like her gears turning as she's making calculations and thinking about how to do things. It's a hard thing to do. And there's only a limited number of actors who can do it well, I think. And she's one of the few of her generation who's doing a really great job with it.
I'm a fan of hers. I'm not in the bag for her though either. I don't know if you guys saw. I don't want to change the subject, but the second season of White Lotus, I really thought she was not spectacular, and really the storyline was the worst thing about that season. But anyway, I don't want to. We're not here to talk about television.
But did you see Ingrid Goes West from a couple of years ago?
Yes, I did. She was really good. I thought she was really good.
She's great at that.
Yeah.
But an even more like sociopathic character.
Right. Yeah.
A hollow person where a person should be.
Yes, right.
But
Yes.
more often than not, she is that. More often than not, she is just a quip machine and a deadpan quip machine. And
Right.
I've read and heard interviews with her where she's talked about, I need out of it. And this is a very happy medium where she's able to take that. It's like a star performance. She's able to carry over what people love about her, but still embody a full-blooded human being. With that, you believe her circumstances, you believe the decisions that she makes, and she makes some very extreme decisions, especially in the final third of the film, when she decides to put fate in her own hands and give people a taste of their own medicine, because this is what she's learned to do, and she's gone so far that she won't go back. And you believe that because you believe Aubrey Plaza as this woman.
But she never surrenders her weird Aubrey Plaza-ness.
No, and there's an important detail we haven't mentioned. It's the Jersey accent.
Not quite her original accent. She's like from Delaware, I think.
Yeah. She's got an East Coast thing, but her Jersey is pretty heavy at the beginning and kind of comes in and out. It's fine because, or maybe I got accustomed to it. I don't know. I'm not that smart to know how I feel.
I think I did read somewhere that I read some LA critics who were saying they actually really liked it because it's how like blue collar folks from the East Coast sound when they get to LA after a few years. They kind of drift. They don't like immediately change and they don't decisively change. They drift in and out. They slightly like even code switch depending on what their situation is. Where their East Coast, strong East Coast accent, like whether it's Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, whatever, kind of comes and goes once they settle out in LA.
That tracks, and that's a great point to the one I made earlier about performances survival. That's another thing that she's an outsider in LA, a town that's completely outsiders for the most part. But the second she opens her damn mouth, like hi Jersey girl, like I know exactly where you're from.
And I think the inherent, we're talking about like what is the Aubrey Plaza-ness of this role, like what are the markers that she's bringing from what we stereotypically think of her as a performer. And I think the two interview scenes are crucial because they're the scenes where we get a little like vicarious catharsis, where she says in the interview what we've always wanted to say, and there's probably no better person to put like an angry, indignant millennial in, to talk back to the asshole interviewer than to have Aubrey Plaza do it. So like to me, that's like the moment when I felt like that's her old persona that she was sort of welded to for a long time, flashing. That anger coming out and flashing is where we get that. But you're right. It is not, for the majority of the time, it's not a typical role for her, which is great.
That scene, can we talk about it? The person who's interviewing her is Gina Gershon, which is interesting because this is a Gina Gershon role. If it were in the 90s, it would be hypersexualized and it would be Gina Gershon. Like it kind of reminds me of Bound in that you've got that noirish thing. Like she's recalling something that's not unintentional. That
Showgirls,
Showgirls, right?
Because of her position of power as the established one. I think we're meant to think of Showgirls.
It's a little like Erin Brockovich to me. It's a little too. I have boobs.
So is that the place where it's on the nose?
It's on the nose for me. It's like its thesis is within there and with her quip. But you know what? I get the impulse to do it. It's Aubrey Plaza. Don't you want to see her yell at Gina Gershon that way? And it's the thing that I remember, like bits of it from the trailer or like hearing about it on other shows. That's sort of the scene that I've been anticipating throughout the film. But the way it's positioned and where it is in the film makes so much sense. I thought that was going to be one of the first scenes, is that she doesn't get the job or she's doing an unpaid internship and therefore she does this, because you sort of have to bend over backwards to put a character in this position. I just watched the film Private Benjamin. I know this is a weird analogy. Follow me.
Are you doing your own random movie podcast?
We
Yes.
just did a Nancy Myers thing.
We
though,
did
so-
a Nancy Myers thing, and
Okay.
that was a blind spot for me. But I just watched Private Benjamin, and this is a wealthy woman who gets married into another wealthy family, and her husband dies on their wedding night. And you're like, okay, but I know she gets enlisted in the military. How in the fuck do you get that person from point A to point B without breaking a sweat? And it's that you have to believe that a character would make that decision, and you believe that this person, she just is talked into enlisting into the military because she has nothing else going for her, and this person's so low that you believe it. And here I'm thinking, like, she's gonna have like mistaken identity stuff. Like, I wasn't trusting Nancy Myers enough after doing deep dives for this podcast. But it's a similar situation here. It's like, you have to believe that this person eventually, in the end, would become like a small crime syndicate boss,
Right. Yes.
all predicated on credit card theft.
Right.
Yeah,
and,
you mentioned Michael Corleone earlier, and I was thinking about that too. Not just in the sense that all crime movies make us think of The Godfather, but
Sure. Right.
but also because I think there was a screenwriting podcast that was talking about it recently that I had listened to. They were talking about Michael being, at least in Godfather 1, being the non-arc. It's just a downward slide. But there is a moment where he falls off the cliff, and that's the moment after the attempt on his father's life, when he's punched by the cop, and there's that great slow zoom on him sitting on that easy chair and making decision and laying out almost in real time, like he's voicing his thoughts, laying out the plan. And that's sort of the break point. After that, it's a straight drop off a cliff from here once he makes that decision. And Emily has done criminal things, but there's something about that scene, that second interview, where she's just like, yeah, you know what, fuck this, where you can feel it has that same energy of, okay, now we've crossed the Rubicon. Even though she's done criminal stuff, some bad stuff, that's the moment where she decides, I don't want to be a part of whatever bullshit this is anymore. I need to go back to what was working.
Are you saying she breaks bad?
Yes, she breaks bad. Well, obviously, that always comes up as well, but I don't think in a bad way, because
no.
So I do want to ask you, you guys, what you thought about, and Jason in particular, because you picked this film and you've talked about how much you love it. I want to talk about, like, do you feel like there's anything else deeper going on here than it just being a genre exercise? Because one thing I started to think about, particularly after the conversation that she has with the mother of her boyfriend / not boyfriend, is she talks about, Yusuf. She talks about what, figuring out what you are. And it's kind of like a cringy moment because their mom's only suggesting sort of womanly roles. Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be a mom?
Be Emily the teacher. You could be Emily the mother. Right.
But one thing
I do love that. And
that's just a great.
They said
you're waiting for it, right?
They almost said the title, but it's kind of smart because it is about identity.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
But like, to me, that's where my ears perk up, because I love any criminal film about character studies about criminals are always really fascinating to me. But I love anytime we start talking about, in a more existential way, about like, who am I? What am I in my essence? Am I what I do, or who I think? Am I the identity in my head, or am I more defined by my actions? Is there a role that really makes me who I am? And I think this film, I don't think it 100% embraces that idea, but it definitely is interested in it. So what do you think about that? Do you think that's there, or am I reading too much into it?
No. I think that's absolutely definitely there. To compare, you go back to The Godfather for a second. We see in that movie Michael, who begins as this pretty principled guy, not in the family business, realize that he becomes Michael the criminal because what he realizes is that family is more important. Family is the most important thing, more important than all these rules. The law is more important than all the criminal rules. What's that?
I thought it was breakfast.
But so there's the suspension of the ethical that goes on there in favor of his family. It's a little, you have to pick at, I think, why Emily becomes Emily the criminal is a little more abstract. It's not anything as concrete as her family ties. I think it's this slow realization that, yes, we pretend that the system is built on freedom and opportunity, but the freedom and opportunities are dangled like the water held on a stick out in front of the donkey to get it to walk across the desert, right? How do you get out of that? Well, you can just rip the apparatus off and you can just walk wherever the hell you want to walk, right? And I think that that what we get in the end is Emily really embracing the fact that I'm not going to play this game anymore. I'm not going to pretend I believe in the system anymore. I'm going to take in the way that you're not supposed to take, but then again, in exactly the way that it seems like everybody else is taking.
And I think that's a crucial tenet of this genre. And that's what interests me about the genre, is that the mode of entertainment is particularly thrilling because there's an element of what would I do?
Mm-hmm.
Would I go to this extreme? And it is a genre of extremes. Ultimately, it does become about identity and the kind of shifting plates and when things collide and what comes up from that.
Right.
To give a really bad metaphor. But it's the thing that thrills me about my favorite directors. It's Hitchcock, it's De Palma, it's often Claire Denis. I think she makes genre exercises that are hit with a hammer and split apart and put back together.
We might be talking about that sometime
soon. But you put people in these extreme situations and you see, who am I? Am I that I did this extreme thing? Am I a different person because I'm in extenuating circumstances? Yeah, and it's the stuff that just thrills me. It's the stuff I think about with the neo-noir, which this would fit in with, especially of the 80s and 90s. Thinking about Last Seduction, Blood Simple. I mean, all of these kinds of films. And of course, the ones I mentioned earlier.
It was a very, very early Miramax feel.
Yes.
There's also, I think, in that third act when things kind of really crank up and she's making a bunch of, she's basically just sort of embracing violence and cutting, like burning all her bridges and going as hard as she can. Partly because, again, we talked about this earlier, that like no one suspects her of doing that.
Yeah.
So it's like I might as well seize this advantage while I have it. But there's also that, I mean, again, not everything goes back to Breaking Bad, but it does make me think of that idea of maybe that third act. I think she's starting to think, am I good at this? Like, is that who I am? Am I Emily the criminal because this is my skill set? I just haven't really had a chance to use it so far, which is a moment of like both personal revelation and also kind of like she's proud of herself figuring it out, but also there's a whole moment of horror where you recoil from that a little bit.
Well, and it's all relative too. I mean, let's talk about we don't have to actually do this, but think about, is what she's doing a crime? When I have someone steal my credit card, no one steal my credit card. It sounds so bad. I don't want it to happen. You just call their asses and they're like, oh, well, it's stolen and I'll erase those purchases. Like,
right. Who is this? This crime isn't hurting anybody.
Yeah, it's not like getting mugged. I mean, like, I'm not saying it's not a crime, but like getting mugged is way worse. Than
right.
Having a number stolen or whatever.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting about it too, is that it's all sort of relative, and you're
not robbing a person, you're literally robbing the system.
And that's that's subtext in the film too, because again, it touches on race and being a woman and so forth. But like, why does Emily initially not want to take the late shift at the beginning of the movie that arguably sets the entire plot in motion? She's like, I don't like being downtown at night.
Right.
Like, I'm a white woman walking around at night in LA, and downtown LA is a completely different scene than other neighborhoods in LA. So like there is that element of, do I belong here? Do people suspect me? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to compliment how hard it is to end a movie like this, and how well I think Ford finishes this movie. The third act itself and the climax might have some plausibility problems, but in terms of where Emily ends up and how this ends up resolving, I think it's absolutely perfect.
I buy it. I buy it because I buy the character, and
this could have ended in some more realistic way with her having to pay the price and the moral universe being reset. It could have ended in some very, very dark way with that underscores the cynicism of how with her in prison or something. Instead,
it could have ended in a more like escapist note, which is what I was kind of like fearing. Like, I was like, oh, she just goes away to paradise and lives out her life. On the beach. No, but like, it's those last shots that are clear. It's the last shots that are bringing us back full circle. Her repeating the same things that Youssef originally said to her. It's like, oh, she never got out. She doesn't want to be out. She wants to
Right.
be a part of this.
And I was afraid there at the end that the movie was just going to end with her, on the beach. How often do I leave a movie like so pleased by the very last scene or shot? That leaves. So it sent me out the door really smiling. So
I thought she was going to die.
oh, sure, right.
That's why we kept saying to each other, "This isn't going to end well. This isn't
Right.
going to end well." But it ends like in a reasonably credible place,
Right, in a way that's both a happy ending, but also
Is it a happy ending? Because that's what got her there in the first place. And
Right,
now
yeah.
she's up a level. I don't know, Emily. You better watch your back. I don't know.
yeah. But you get the feeling that she will. Right? That she's maybe smart enough to pull this off.
The director is John Patton Ford. I
Mhm.
made a joke earlier that it's John Ford. I wasn't really aware of anything else he had done.
It's his first movie.
So as a debut, it's really confident. As
Yeah,
a film
yeah.
standing on its own, I find it a little bit anonymous, which I think is okay.
Stylistically, you mean?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I was just kind of curious what you thought of, because for me, it's all the script and the performance.
He did write the script as well, though. It's a writer director.
So
effort.
those are the things that really stand out. And of course, execution, you have to be able to carry those things off. I don't know what I'm expecting out of it, but what we're talking about is like a modestly made indie crime movie, and it looks like that.
A lot of handheld. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much all handheld, right?
Yeah.
I think about like what the Safdies are up to and their kind of very twisted dark fantasies and
Yeah.
how cinematic those are.
Not everything can be good time. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Or heaven knows what, or Daddy Long Legs. Yeah. I mean, they're just coming from different places. I'm excited to see what he would do next.
Or even you talk about Sean Baker. I mean, not everybody has that ability to just
Baker has that comedic sensibility that runs as a thread. The comedy of the absurd and a thread of warmth that runs through this movie, through his films. This movie is neither funny nor warm. Like it is a cold, hard bash on the concrete of a movie.
Well, she's funny. We should say she's funny.
She's funny, yeah.
I mean, I think there is a lack of flair here, and in terms of like a capital A auteur. I think this movie is really just a life support system for its really wonderful genre screenplay. And I think that the kind of no style of this works so well that I think it's a conscious choice.
It doesn't scream auteur. That's a good way of putting it. But I do think there is some style here. I thought I wrote down on my notebook here montage, that there's some nice sequences where we allied time, we allied processes, like Emily going through processes or things happening off screen through really smart, rapid montage in a way that never felt disorienting. It felt absolutely well placed. So it's a crisp screenplay. Assuming that was written in and that the film handles it well. So it's not just that it was written in; it's that it's placed correctly. It's edited in a way that makes sense. So I mentioned earlier, I love that little editing flick where we get Emily looking at the open gate at the Armenian car dealership. Like that, those are the touches that see to me. It doesn't scream style necessarily, but it screams to me a director who comes out of the gate with the debut where they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, that's learning something from the school of Hitchcock, right? It's
like, exactly right. Yeah. There's a lot of Hitchcockian sort of visual storytelling here. There isn't a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson sort of like zoom shots,
Scorsese, pans and
So I mean, you don't watch this and think the way that you looked at Boogie Nights and thought wow, this person's going to explode, right?
Definitely not looking at this the way I'm looking at Boogie Nights. Speaking of which, as the resident gay, the resident thirsty gay, I would also fall into a criminal underworld if Theo Rossi, the guy who plays Yusuf, were to invite me in.
Yeah, and he's charming.
He's
charming. Like he's that dangerous kind of low-level criminal who can like talk you into doing bad things.
And he's charming because he's not like overtly charming. He's charming because he's sort of ingratiating. Does that make sense?
Like the way he sits down at Emily's kitchen table without being invited and just starts looking through her drawings.
Right.
That's a guy who knows how to like play a failed art student.
Yes, and no,
Right.
yeah, and there's a charming harmlessness about him, right?
Yeah.
That very quickly belies though that he's not harmless at all. Right?
Right. So you mentioned earlier that you and Matt had done your tops. You
Mhm.
liked this enough where it was in your top 5?
Definitely. I have a personal reaction to this movie that I think is maybe slightly beyond. I'll defend the merits of this movie, but I had an intense personal reaction to this movie. Saying it was probably the most fun and the best I felt walking out of a movie this year, and the most.
Awesome.
As a critic, you're always walking out writing your critique. You're always thinking, well, this could have been better, or that could have been better. This is about once a year I walk out of a movie with no notes. Right, with no like I would change this or would have done that. I just, and things come later, obviously, right? In terms of that, I think that this, combined with what it does versus its ambitions, I think this is my favorite movie from this year. I mean, granted, I have not seen. There are about 5 movies that I still need to see that are kind of major players that are coming up on a lot of top 10 lists, but I doubt that I'm going to see a movie I like more than this year.
I felt that way about my number one when I saw it too. The second time that I saw it, first time I was like, what the fuck just happened to me? I love that feeling. Like,
yes,
that's an important movie that I just saw. I can't wait to keep living in that movie.
Yes.
What else is on your list?
My other choices are pretty boring. Everything Everywhere All at Once is I so hope that wins Best Picture and not Fabelmans.
What the fuck? Jason, you hate those Fabelmans?
Oh God, I hated Fabelmans.
Oh, wow.
I hated that movie. Matt and I almost had to get our sister podcast, My Favorite Murder. They have their own therapist for the just professional therapist. Matt and I sometimes talk about how we need a professional therapist. It almost got out of hand over the Fabelmans. Because I had a really intensely negative reaction to that movie. But anyway.
Yeah, we have to change the subject right now. What else is on your list?
The Banshees of Inisherin is an absolutely wonderful film. What a weird. See, I do this. I can't say something good about something or somebody without throwing shade at somebody. So it's so good to see Michael McDonough return to form after 3 billboards outside of somewhere that bears no resemblance to Missouri. He's back on his home turf and really doing things working with people he really understands. The Menu would be on somewhere on my top 10. I loved that movie and just recommended it to a friend the other day.
Menu or Glass Onion? Pick one, quick.
The Menu.
I kind of agree, but I like them about the same. But I would pick the Menu again. I've seen Glass Onion twice now.
Yeah, Glass Onion. Both those movies I feel they're fine, but I feel like the culture around them is so enthusiastic that I feel a little left out. That I don't adore them.
I get it. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very good. No, I'd say that's a solid list. All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you'll have me back again. We'll have you back again. We'll make you watch Urban Cowboy again. we'll make Andrew watch Urban Cowboy. How's that?
So where can folks find your podcast?
We are Cinema Spin. Yeah, if you just type cinemaspinthepodcast.com, you can find our website. We're also on all of the you can find us on at the usual places for podcasts. So
I like your format. I've never listened to you guys before, but now I kind of want it. I love the one current and one completely picked out of the algorithm's ass.
What was the one with Family Plot? Like, you guys didn't like Family Plot the way I liked it, but what did you watch Family Plot with? Morbius.
Oh God.
This is a really fun episode because they're like fucking Morbius. And I don't understand this Alfred Hitchcock movie. I don't know what this is. Thank you so much, Jason. And Andrew and I are going to do our top 10 movies of 2022.
Thank you, Jason.
Jason's given us his tops. And now, are we going to argue? I I don't want to.
I think this is going to be a nice mix of very different opinions about whether these movies belong on these top 10 lists, combined with a handful that we both put up there.
Yes.
So how are we doing this? Are we doing like
let's bounce back and forth?
Countdown, alternating?
Yeah, okay. Let's count down, baby. If anything, I have to gamify something. So let's count down from 10. Create some suspense. I'll go first, which is going to give you the very last number 1.
Okay.
How's that? Great.
Sounds great. Are we doing honorable mentions? Just
at the end, we're going to rattle off. I have like 20 things I can rattle off.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. My number 10 choice for a film of 2022 kind of surprises me. It's something I reviewed early in the year, but as things shook out, I'm like, I love this fucking movie. It's called Rock Bottom Riser.
Oh, yes.
It is a like essay film about Hawaii and specifically indigenous people on Mauna Kea. I don't have proper pronunciation. I apologize. But it gets into like layers of history as they are layers of earth. And it's just like a post-punk sort of apocalyptic look at colonialism and how white people have affected culture on this island, and specifically how that culture has survived in certain alcoves of it. This is the film that has one of my favorite scenes of the year. It takes place in a poetry class that is clearly an adult learning poetry class, all kinds of different people, and the instructor wants to break down the poetry of the Simon and Garfunkel song, I Am a Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I am a rock, I am an island, and an island has no name. And it's a little, sure, on the nose, but whatever. I think it's a great allegory for this film that's just kind of beautiful collision of ideas and sights and sounds.
I think the way you described it earlier this year, it made me think that it's not an avant-garde film, but it has a slight avant-garde or experimental quality to it, the way you described it.
Yeah, don't go in thinking you're going to get talking heads or anything, but it isn't. I don't think it's a film that's that alienating. I think it's less than 80 minutes long. So that's my number 10. What's your number 10?
I'm going to go with the film Happening by Audrey Diwan. This is a French film that I saw earlier this year. I mean, I saw it over half a year ago, and I'm still sort of vibrating about it, about how great it is. This is an adaptation of the newly Nobel Prize winning author Annie Ernaux, a autobiographical novel that she wrote about her experiences in the 1960s, trying to obtain what was then an illegal abortion in France while she became pregnant in college. And this is just, I don't think this is a movie that's going to change anybody's mind. If you aren't anti-abortion, it's not a movie that's going to convince you to be pro-choice. Conversely, I don't think it's anything so straightforward as a sort of preaching to the choir pro-choice film. It's a much more interesting film about being alone, being a young woman alone, and not having support from anybody, and trying to sort of secure your future, your safety, your integrity in an environment that is hostile to it from almost every side. It is not, never, rarely, sometimes, always.
It's not about making the decision.
More than that, it's not about having anybody you can rely on. The pivotal part for both Florence and Never Rarely is the idea of a feminine relationship that helps support the decision and helps carry out the decision. This is a movie very much about a woman being alone. So yeah. I don't want to go into it too much about the plot, but it's an incredible film, incredible lead performance from an actress who I'm absolutely going to mispronounce, Anna Maria Bartolome, who is just absolutely riveting it as the main character. If the world, I think this would be a Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Adapted Screenplay competitor, because it is that strong.
It's my number 11.
I think we maybe talked about this.
We did talk about it on a previous podcast. It is one of the most vital films of the year. I think it was kind of a relative weak year for film overall.
No, I disagree.
And yet I can rattle off 30 films that I think are great.
Weak is relative when you're a film critic, right?
Yeah, because you see everything.
Number 9 from you.
My number 9 is Saint-Omer.
Oh.
This is Alice Diop's narrative feature debut, kind of. It is based on actual events of a woman who was sent to trial for the murder of her infant child. And the film sensibly is a courtroom drama where this woman is on trial and essentially doesn't really defend herself, but states that she wants to figure out what happened herself. And not only is it sort of heartbreaking in what's going on, but there's also a superstructure to it, to where it's a journalist, filmmaker, educator, is you're seeing it as she's experiencing it. And as it turns out, she's actually a pregnant woman.
And deeply ambivalent about it.
Maybe. But it's a film that unfolds like Robert Bresson, and specifically, you have to think of Trial of Joan of Arc because of the trial aspect to it.
I just saw this movie 2 weeks ago, before Christmas.
It's so fucking riveting.
How many movies could you have where characters, everything happened before the film, and it's basically just characters recounting things, sometimes from slightly different perspectives. There's no flashbacks. It's just people in a courtroom talking. It's amazing.
And it's every choice that Diop makes that is insane to me. It's the kind of film that when it cuts, your entire world changes. And it's just a cut from someone speaking to another person speaking.
A great spatial control of that courtroom, like using that space and where everybody is arranged in a French criminal courtroom to fantastic effect.
Now, as far as its veracity or verisimilitude to French courts, I don't know. Because a lot of it seemed to me like, do they really do it like that? Anyway, it's a great film, ultimately about women and about Black women and their experience, and the specific experience of these two and how they do and do not relate to each other.
I do want to shout out to the woman who plays the woman on trial, the actress Guslagi Malanga. She's a Black French actress. She hasn't made any movies since a movie I saw like a decade ago that I freaking loved called My Friend Victoria. She came out of nowhere, started this movie, made a huge impression on me, and now she hasn't made a movie for 10 years, and now she's back with this. Just like, what a great I wish she had been in more movies, but what a great twofer.
And the film is her face.
Yeah, and that sort of ochre brown prison garb that they put her in. It's just, that's the image of the movie. Is her on the stand.
It's so spare too. It's so spare and so rich, and I love that kind of thing. And it hasn't come out here yet theatrically, but it will be shortly, I'm hoping. What's your number 9, Andrew?
My number 9 is The Eternal Daughter, which is I just saw about a week ago. I know you're happy about this. Is this going to be coming up? Maybe
this is definitely coming up.
So maybe we should defer.
Let's hold on to it.
Okay.
My number 8 is Beba. This is
one I haven't seen, but I've heard a lot about it.
So this is available on Hulu now, and it is another sort of essay film, but this is a personal essay film about a woman whose family name is Beba. Her name is Rebecca Hunt, and it is about her family. It is about her. Her family's from Dominican Republic, and she's first generation American. And it is about not only that, but what it is to be in a family. And then what it is specifically to be Afro-Latina family, to be her very specific identity, but also under the very specific circumstances in which she came to this country and has lived in this country.
So is this documentary or autofiction?
It's a documentary.
Okay.
It is a documentary, but it is a documentary that is very sort of free form, that uses a lot of personal family effects, and that sort of relates to another film on my list that does some very similar things. If you were to have a filmmaker's sort of personality explode onto the screen, that's this kind of film. And she's very young, interested in music, pot smoker. It goes not only through her family's history, but also sort of the history of a sort of general story of immigration in the States and New York specifically. Beautiful film. Absolutely love it. And it's on Hulu right now.
And a huge risk to make a film like that about yourself as a young filmmaker.
And it's the kind of film that you can tell she's been working towards and thinking about with all of these footage. And that sort of becomes a part of it too, is how do I tell my own story? Beba, my number 8. What's your number 8?
My number 8 is The Northman, the third feature film from Robert Eggers. I know you aren't as enthusiastic about this.
I am not, but I am fascinated.
I kind of like didn't know where this was going to end up, but the more and more I thought about it, the more I felt like this movie needs to be in my top 10. I won't even say it's Robert Eggers' best film. I think The Witch is basically a perfect film. It's one of my favorite films in the last decade. But this movie, the more I think about it, the more it grows on me. I'm not a person who likes my own writing, so take this with a grain of salt. I think the best thing I wrote last year was my review of The Northman, in terms of, I feel like I did the best job of conveying what about this movie works so spectacularly. I think we talked about this in a previous pod, so I'm not going to belabor it. But if you haven't seen it yet, it's pretty much available to rent everywhere. This is a spectacular film. It is not an epic. I think that's one thing I see a lot of people labeling it as. And for a movie that is described as epic, it has basically one battle scene, one duel, and that's it. There's not a lot of traipsing around a vast world. That's basically a 3-location tragedy based on the legends that originally inspired Hamlet. So there's a sketch of a familiar dramatic story there. But really what sells this film is the verisimilitude of it, the way that Eggers and his crew plunge us into this world, not just in terms of like, ooh, great costume design, great location scouting. It's everything about how this film was written. Eggers wrote the script with an Icelandic poet who helped him with it. And it's about immersing you in what it was like to be alive in 10th century, Scandinavia. Not just in the sense of, oh, it was hard being alive in the Dark Ages, but in the sense for what is the worldview? How is this world so alien and different? The values, the traditions are so alien from what we experience. It's not a word, again, a lot like The Witch sort of did with Puritan colonial America. Again, if you're looking for like a rip-roaring action film set in the sort of a historical period that is comfortable, this is not a comfortable film. This is a film that's meant in some ways to alienate you. I compared it to The Assassin from a few years ago as a film that sort of deliberately is trying to make the past seem weird and strange to us. I haven't stopped thinking about it, so I feel like it has to go on the top 10.
I did feel alienated by it and like a distance from it. I would like to revisit it sometime when I have more distance to it. I feel like watching it at home like I did was a disadvantage to both of us. Yeah.
It worked great I'm not a theatrical fetishist by any stretch. Most of the movies I watched this year were at home, but I do think I benefited probably from seeing it in a theater. I think I saw it in the IMAX theater at Ronnie's.
Pricey. I don't think I could handle that. All those abs on that screen.
There is a lot. There's so much neck in Alexander Skarsgård. He has so much neck.
That's a thick dude. He's so thick. Anyway, speaking of thick, you can really wade in the humidity in my number 7. That's Stars at Noon.
Oof, yes. Which is going to come up again.
So it's going to come up again on your list, or
no, not on my list.
Episode.
Are we going to talk about it in a different episode or no?
We are going to talk about it in a different episode. So guess what? Pay attention, listeners. Stars at Noon.
I do like this movie a lot. It just didn't crack my top 10.
It's on Hulu. We'll probably talk about that too. Yeah, I keep bringing it up on this podcast. I think we talk about it a lot. But that's my number 7. So we will reserve conversation until then. What's yours? Number 7.
My 7 is another film I think we both love, which is Great Freedom. A film that played at Q-Fest last year. That kind of snuck up on me. I didn't know exactly what to expect. This is by the filmmaker Sebastian Mies, starring one of our great international stars right now, Franz Rogowski, and an amazing performance. This is a film about a man who goes to prison in sort of mid-century Germany after World War II. The Nazis are out of power, but all the sort of Nazi era homosexual laws are on the books still. So he's basically been thrown in prison for being gay. And it's interesting because it's not, while it is a movie that is sort of a harrowing look at how, freedom can be returned to a subset of people while another set of people can still be locked in a certain kind of bondage. It's very much a movie about love, weirdly enough, and about how mysterious and unpredictable and chaotic love is, and how it's weird to say that it might be like the most romantic movie of the years about two guys in prison who should not be compatible. Like
how that love can persist
Right, endurance, and that we can't. I was thinking often of, there's an Emily Dickinson line about the heart knows, what it wants, even if it, no matter what else, I paraphrase, the heart knows what it wants, even no matter what the rest of the world says. And this feels like a movie about that. Also, I mean, if After Sun wasn't going to be appearing later, it might have one of my favorite final scenes of the year.
Just fucking gut punch.
Somehow beautiful and also devastating at the same time.
Devastating, yeah.
So great film, pretty much available to rent everywhere now. It was out earlier this year. Highly recommend it. Not a typical prison drama or even a typical like gay romance film in any respect, and just amazing filmmaking, amazing performances.
So happy that we got that at QFest. I think it was a really big year for QFest. I have a few QFest films in my 30-ish. So yeah, I'm really proud to have programmed that one for QFest. And it's on Mubi right now. People can watch it if they have a subscription.
So good programming call. This straight dude loved it.
Yes, big conversion. You know what else is on Mubi? Decision to Leave, my number 6. But I have a feeling
let's defer.
Sit on it. All right, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is Women Talking, the new film by Sarah Polley, which is a film I was anticipating. Maybe had a little nervousness about, because I was like, I really want to see. I really been excited about this movie for like 6 months. Is it going to be as good as I think it's going to be? Yeah, it is. I don't. You didn't respond as strongly to it, but
I did not. But
I really loved it. So I read the novel by Marion Trose a couple of years ago and really loved it. Sarah Polley is a filmmaker who I think is good, but I don't necessarily think her previous films. I've watched almost all of them, but I don't think she's ever really. I've never felt her as like a really strong auteur. The previous one that I liked the most, I think, was Away From Her, which was her breakout film about with Julie Christie. This, I think, is her best film now, like in a while. It's an amazing ensemble in the best possible way. There's been a lot of like blood and sweat spilled over like who's going to get nominated from this film and why, and it's difficult to say because it's such an ensemble piece, but that in itself speaks exactly to the themes of the film. It's very much a film about community. As an adaptation, it's a great script. The absolutely left field, without spoiling too much, the absolutely left field appearance of a monkey song as some kind of dramatic spine for the film blew me away. Like, so everybody is sort of firing on all cylinders here. Just a great, fascinating film. You would, again, sort of like Saint Omer, it's like you wouldn't think women sort of having circular discussions and debates in a barn would be riveting, and I found this riveting.
Yeah, I find it riveting too. I like this movie. I don't love it. I think it's kind of fine. I think I actually sort of disagree. I think part of the problem is Polly's direction, and I will say that I find this a really ugly looking film.
I know that's an opinion a lot of people have shared, and I mean, taste is subjective, right? Like, sure. I walked out of this going,
the thing about it.
I love I don't know why everybody's complaining about the color grading and saying it was hideous movie. I freaking loved I'm not a person who likes typically color grading for color grading, like severe color grading for color grading's sake. And I thought it worked perfectly here.
This is going to sound like a backhanded compliment. I don't mean this. There's a classicalism to it that is sort of adaptation, old Hollywood play adaptation. Like, it reminds me of Cukor or Mankiewicz, that is just so interested in that space, in the way these characters and how their conversations develop throughout time and decisions going back and forth.
And when I heard it was being made into a movie, like, my first thought was, ooh, I love that novel. That's going to be cool. And then I thought, wait, how the hell are they going to make this into a movie? It's like literally 300 pages of women sitting in a barn talking.
Women talking. Yeah.
It's on the can, But again, we might differ on how Polly's direction worked there, but I find it a really great feat of adaptation, which I don't think we get that often. It's like just perfectly preserved everything the novel did right. And then, in my opinion, Polly adding a lot of depth to it, a lot of originality. So,
all right.
Your number 5.
I hate myself. Ever since I watched the fucking donkey, I just think, because I love him, my little Eo.
I'm going to hopefully see this movie tonight, so I can't comment on it. Yeah. So
It's Jerzy Skolimowski. He's been around making films for 50 years. He's made The Deep End, The Shout, Essential Killing, Moonlighting. I mean, shit. This is another film concerned about mankind and its existential fate. And it's through the eyes of a donkey. There's a title at the end, which, never mind. I won't say it because you haven't seen it yet.
Don't spoil as much as you can spoil a movie about a donkey just kind of wandering through its life.
It's Ahasar Balthasar.
And he's admitted, the director is like,
yeah,
open about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at the trailer, the logline, it's Ahasar. Like, you didn't even pick a different animal. But why not keep doing that, right? Why not sort of refract your vision of the world through Bristol? Like, why not? And
well, the donkey is powerful, right? Like in and of itself. It's a biblical animal. The ass is an idea, isn't just an animal, it's an idea.
Yeah. So it's a sort of innocent figure moving through the world as it is. This is the wildest vision, personal vision of the world that has come this year.
Then the cinematographer has been making some awards buzz too. Like I think
there are moments in this that are like 2001: A Space Odyssey. There are moments in this that are like Balthazar. There are moments in this that are like what's that German serial killer film? Angst. It moves through kind of collective of what cinema can do, what it can be. There's Wings of Desire in it. There's the very last, or the penultimate episode in it is a Buñuel joke. And then the ending is, I mean, you can probably guess the ending is kind of devastating. Anyway, yeah, EO is just a really incredible film. We're going to have to talk about it more in depth once you see it. What's your number 5?
Number 5 is a film I've talked about on the pod before. It's Phil Tippett's 30 years in the making stop motion masterpiece, Mad God, which is now streaming on Shudder. We've talked about this before, so I won't go too much into it.
Fucking wild ass movie.
And I don't tend to be a person who grades movies on a curve based on how much effort they took. Like, to me, like, Boyhead is a good movie, not because it took 12 years to make. Like, that doesn't inherently make a movie good just because it took effort. In the same way, I'm not saying that just because Phil Tippett took 30 years to make this in sort of fits and starts and had to like rope in production assistants and assistant directors where he could in spurts. That isn't what makes it great. It's that it's such a vision. I know that's a cliche word. We talk about visionary directors, or this movie is a visionary film, but like, this movie is a vision in the sense that it feels like something that would descend on my mind after a dose of some hallucinogen that I've never heard of. Like, it's a vision. It's an apocalyptic vision. It's a biblical vision. It's fucking filthy. This movie is a filthy movie, and I don't mean that morally. I mean tactily. It's a filthy film.
Do you want to swim in the sludge of 1,000 decaying bodies?
Yeah. So
that's
I don't.
This.
I mean, there's some Pink Floyd The Wall in there. There's some. There's a lot of. I mean, Tippett being Tippett. There's a lot of animation history sort of embedded inside this, but it's. I have to put it on this list because it's like nothing else I've seen this year or any other year. It's a completely novel thing. So,
your drug trip is Mad God. Mine is EO.
What's
that
say about us?
Are we okay? But what if it were like, I don't know, something nice? Lyle Crocodile? I don't know.
Oh God. Maybe we have different ideas about nice. What is your number 4?
It's those Fablemans.
Oh, Fablemans, yes.
Of course. I mean,
have you been talking? I don't remember. Have you talked about this on the pod at length?
We did. We talked about it briefly, because you hadn't seen it yet, but you have seen
it. And now I have seen it, yes. And I don't like it as much as you.
Yeah.
But it is a film, the more I think about it, the more I like it.
It's stuck in my craw from its first moments. There's something this year where all of these artists are sort of evaluating their roles as artists. And there's something sort of apocalyptic, like you said, about that. We're at the edge. What am I doing?
It's crazy that it's taken this long for Steven Spielberg to make his old man film, but it is his old man film.
But it also doesn't, like we were talking about family plot with Jason. It has that same sort of like spark and reinvigoration in what film can do, or what I can do as a filmmaker. Like have seen my limitations, and I want to understand them. And The Fabelmans is fascinating for that, not just because it's his story. You know, I don't care. I don't care what in it is factual, what isn't. This is such a great film about what do I do? How does what I do make an impact or not?
It's so pessimistic about art, not in the sense that art really is not good, but in that, like, I was just talking about this on Twitter with somebody about how, like, there is this movie is not a subtle film. There's a midpoint scene where Judge Hirsch gives you the theme and basically gives you the very dire, he says it with a dire, like, certainty of fact, that artists will have to sideline, betray, shortchange their loved ones to make art, because art will not be denied. It's going to destroy you and your relationships. And it's just, there's nothing you can do about that if you're passionate. And that's such a wild sentiment coming from Spielberg at this age. It's like he needed 70 years to formulate that thesis.
And as a way of understanding his family.
Yeah.
And his mother in particular.
I'm not always a fan of film as therapy. It's like self-autotherapy.
This is it.
It works here, I'll say that.
This is that, yeah. And I've got a couple others. The rest of my list is definitely film as therapy. So The Fabelmans, also not enough credit for how fucking funny it is. You know, it's a Tony Kushner and Spielberg collaboration, but it is
weaponizing Seth Rogen in a way I don't think we've ever seen him be weaponized in a film.
It's sort of become I've seen several people tweet about it, like a gif of the shot where they're watching his first big film that he's made that he's showing in front of an audience. And Spielberg has the camera on the three of them. The family friend, Seth Rogen plays, Mitzi, his mother, played by Michelle Williams, and Paul Dano, his father. And you're already aware that she's got special relationship. His camera, it pans over as she looks at
the wrong guy,
Seth Rogen, the wrong guy,
or the right guy, depending on how you look at it. Yeah,
and it's a film about finding those feelings through film. It's
I'm not as enthusiastic about it as you, but it is a film that I've thought about a lot since I saw it. So that's to its credit. I think about that scene. I think there's a scene late in the film, the sort of the big scene at the end where his bully confronts him about how he portrayed him in sort of the school picnic movie that he made.
Yeah, you made me look like a golden god.
There's this very overwrought scene in the school hallway. And sort of my feelings about it in that scene were sort of tripping so fast between, is this great or is this dumb? I can't tell.
Overwrought.
It's so the light is streaming down the hallway. It's so self-aware. But the moment that I do love is the end, which calls back, I think, to like there's a similar moment in David Fincher's Zodiac where the guy says, you know, maybe I'll make a movie about it someday. And I'm like, oh my God, is that
everyone lost their fucking shit?
Is that brilliantly meta, or is that just too precious?
But then he does something even more.
The meta period that's put on the movie.
Yeah. And I'm so mad at someone posting screenshots of who plays John Ford. Anyway,
it's been all over Twitter though. It's not a secret.
I guess I don't feel like only film Twitter people have already seen it. Anyway, okay, you're number 4.
My number 4 is another film we've talked about recently, After Sun.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing, again, I don't think you were quite as top 10 as I am about this. The debut feature from filmmaker Charlotte Wells. I talked about it at length a while with this movie. I haven't stopped thinking about it since I've seen it once, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since then. Probably my favorite final shot of the year. Maybe Fabelmans is yours, my favorite final shot of the year. Maybe this one's probably mine. Incredible film. Again, I think I'm repeating myself from an earlier podcast, but so many movies on my sort of top 30 are movies, you know, movies that are, and a lot of movies this year are about big maximalist filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a film it's cinematic, but it isn't maximalism. It's just using the medium in ingenious ways to untangle the past and I can't. Just thinking about it makes me misty-eyed. So that has to count for something. You know, emotional responses aren't intellectual responses, but that has to absolutely count for something.
I think they are intellectual responses. I'm about to talk about some emotional responses.
Okay, we're getting into the big ones here. Number 3 for you.
Well, number 3 is something. It was your number 9.
Yeah,
It's The Eternal Daughter.
Oof.
This is Joanna Hogg.
What a picture!
But yeah. Okay, what did you text me?
I said that this is the Godfather coda, the death of Michael Corleone of the souvenirs, and I mean that in the best possible way.
So it's a reconfiguration of what the souvenir was, and the souvenir was,
and we both
very
love
expressly.
both love the souvenir part 1 and 2, right?
I love 2. I need to revisit 1 now with the love of 2, and now with Joanna Hogg kind of has my number 3 spot. Like next year, you got a film. It's probably going to be number 3. Anyway,
she gets it by default. But
this is her genre reworking of her life as an artist,
but much more this particular chapter about her mother.
Yeah, and so you could say that it's 2 characters from souvenir films, maybe. One who was originally played by Tilda Swinton, and then her daughter. Like the layers of all that is fucking nuts. Like the serial killer with the push pins and the string, all that shit. But as a film about using art as therapy, this is it.
It's a gothic ghost story as like an excavation of your parents and how you will never really understand your parents. And I don't know how, again, I don't want to say too much about this film for those who haven't seen it yet, but there's so much self-criticism and like ambivalence about filmmaking, about real life subjects in it. It's Joanna Hogg like wrestling on film with, do I even have the fucking right to make this movie? I don't know.
And how much of life is mundane and how much of it you're living through that, and just the conversations in this film. Although
I will say, shout out to the petulant desk clerk who consistently breaks the very gothic psychological spell with her just like flippant, I clearly don't want to be here attitude.
I love it. I love her so much.
Interesting that this is side by side with After Sun too, which I think you can argue that both movies are sort of post grief. It's maybe elided a bit more exactly what happened to Charlotte's father analog in the film, but like it's very much a movie about adults wrestling with what was going on in my parents' head. What were they really about? Can I ever really understand them? And am I allowed to talk about that now?
This is one of my favorite movies. And that I have, 2 films that I think are sort of totemic.
Wait, where was Petite Maman last year for you? Let's ask that question.
I think it was number 3. Hey, me as a film lover and a film critic, it felt very personal to me. Someone who shrugs at subjectivity can go elsewhere and have their.
I think we've always been on the same page.
That's been our thing. Yeah.
And I think we'll get to it when we get to some of mine too, about the tension between emotional personal reaction and intellectual reaction, if any.
I lost my mother last year, and this to me is the way she haunts me, but the way I still love her, and the way she's mutated into something else, but she's also still herself. I've not seen a film understand it, and the means by which it understands it is so special.
I did say on Letterboxd that, in our current age of media illiteracy and cultural illiteracy, inability to like read what a film's intent is, somebody out there is going to say that Eternal Daughter sucks because they totally called the twist early on. And that person can burn in hell.
Right. Well, then watch it again and then have the experience that the rest of us are having, because we also figured it out very early and then was able to wade through the waters of it.
Yeah.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is a film that I think we're going to disagree a little bit about.
Oh shit.
Todd Field's Tar, which I know you are the contrarian here. Like, it is really racking up a lot of laurels, and you're the contrarian. So let's not be negative. Let's be positive.
Okay.
No, not meaning that like I don't want to argue.
I'm not going to dig on Tar.
I don't want to argue.
I don't have a lot of negative things to say about Tar. I have a lot of ambivalence for Tar.
That's fair. That's fair.
So again, the
Richard Brody
subjectivity of
wrote
it.
a very excellent but very negative review of it, which I thought it was a great read. I disagreed with almost everything he said, but it was still a very cogent, insightful read. This is an amazing film. I think everybody's been talking about it, at least in the film Twitter sphere. The film, the more I think about, the more it's sort of sticking on my ribs. I absolutely need to revisit it. And it is one of those films I'm loath to recommend to people who are not cinephiles. Rando relative came up to me and said, "Hey, what movie should I watch?" I don't think I would recommend Tar, the 2.5 hour character study that tinges into Ghost Story about the classical music world. But Kate giving an absolute banger performance, and just crazy sound design, crazy note, the horror movie notes. Dan Coy wrote a great piece of unpacking, is this a ghost story? Is this a haunting movie that we're sort of not seeing? In the same way that maybe Lydia Tarr isn't seeing what's coming up behind her and about to tap her on the shoulder, metaphorically. I wrote a pretty long review of this, so I won't belabor it, but just a great movie about art and power and how those sort of entwine with each other and corrupt each other. Is not a movie about cancel culture and Me Too, but it is so much more than that and so much more complicated. And we need more movies where we have protagonists, not heroes, not villains, but we have protagonists who are complicated, and the film itself has a complicated relationship to that person. It isn't telling us how to feel. It's just trying to put us inside that person's head and maybe experience what their experience and draw our own conclusions about what that means. I love that. And Todd Field's I think it's his best. I'm maybe cooler on In the Bedroom and Little Children than a lot of people. So I think this is absolutely his best film.
Love those movies. I'm going to revisit Tar once the memes go away.
What is your number two?
We just keep kind of very in a cute way relating all the beauty and the bloodshed. I have two, I feel, totemic films that I might want to, this is, to me, one of the great documentaries, one of the great nonfiction films, one of the great
Laura
films
Poitras, one of the greatest to do it, right?
And one of the great films about art and art's role in the world and the artist's role. And does the artist owe anything to their audience? What do they owe to themselves? What do they owe to their subjects, if anything?
I have not seen this film yet, but you have been raving about it nonstop. So it's still in my increasingly slender watch pile over here.
You, privileged film critic as I would urge you to watch it as soon as possible. Seeing it on a big screen, I really can't wait, because Nan Golden, who is the subject of the film, was an underground artist in late 70s, 80s in New York City. She was running around with David Wojnarowicz, Cookie Mueller, Don Wada, the whole queer art scene was revolving, and she was one of, in its orbit at least. It's a film that understands her art and sort of takes on her art as one of the ways it works in the slideshows that she would do of her photography. In particular, it highlights the Ballad of Sexual Dependency, but isn't just about that, is also about her fight against the Sackler family and their involvement in the arts. The Sackler family being the family behind Purdue Pharma, the manufacturer of OxyContin. It's very complicated in that way. And I think it is a film that a lot of people can walk away from thinking of it as a social justice film. And it is about the futility of the fight too. And there is a scene where they've ostensibly won that is going to rip your heart out and stomp on it, because it's about, how do you win now?
Now, sight unseen, I haven't seen it, but one criticism I have heard from the very rare person who hasn't liked it was that the bifurcation, it stops being good when it's no longer about the art scene, that it becomes a more straightforward, less interesting picture. You don't agree with that?
They are running on parallel tracks throughout, and the juxtaposition of those two things is what makes it interesting. Because Nan Golden's story about the art scene is also the story of the AIDS epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the story of her family. And there isn't really a bifurcation, is a try, I guess,
Oh wow.
in a figure that haunts her, that gives the film its title. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed is one of the great movies. Yeah, it's coming to the Webster University Film Series.
So big screen opportunity.
Starting January 27th, and then running with a few showings through February, beginning of February. So that's going to be so cool to see it with people. And I have a few people that I have promised that I'm taking them to see it because it's been not really present. All right, Andrew, your number 2 is definitely about art or something, right? Like it has to relate. What is it?
I maybe misspoke earlier when I said the most romantic movie was a prison drama about 2 German dudes. Because the most romantic movie is probably really about a Korean police detective and his maybe suspect, Park Chan-wook's decision to leave. We talked about this movie before. I don't really think at this point I can sell you on it if you're not into Park Chan-wook in Korean cinema, but it's like, this movie is a movie. It's the editing, the performances, every shot, the labyrinthine yet straightforward construction of it. And at the core of it, the idea that love can't really be denied, that love is mysterious and uncontrollable, and that it makes us do terrible things, and we can't bullwhip love into obeying us like a tamed lion at the circus. Again, speaking of great final scenes, final shots, like the mystery, the final mystery that the woman character sets up for him to investigate is just like, took my breath. I'm watching it, I'm going, is this happening what I think is going to be happening? Oh my God.
We were talking earlier about Emily the Criminal and just the thriller crime genre in general. And, one of the tenets of it being identity. But, this film has a couple of other things happening as it relates to identity, and that's vision.
Seeing, the act of seeing. Speaking of De Palma.
Yeah, and love. And how those 3 things intertwine. I don't want to give specifics because at this point, I need to see it again.
Yeah, I did.
Because it is simple, but it is also very complex and sticky and
like all
twisty turny
Park's films. Yeah.
This is my favorite of his films.
Really?
And I have some big blind spots with him, but this is my favorite of his.
It feels like an opus. It feels like the same way that Bong Joon-ho worked towards Parasite. Like, it feels like he's been working towards this movie for a while.
Okay.
Number 1. I don't know what you're going to say here. I don't know
what do you mean? I have said it for 6 months now. Jordan Peele's Nope is my number 1.
Oh, of course. Wow.
Forget about Nope.
I had a friend tell me yesterday that they hated Nope, and I didn't even know what to say to her.
Fuck off.
I just had to walk. No, she's fine, but I had she's fine. I had to turn 180 degrees.
Everything I've said about every other film in my list is also said in Nope. Like,
it contains the rest of the top 10 lists.
It somehow manages to do all of those things.
Is it safe to say it's Peele's best film to date for you?
Absolutely. This film is like approaching, the very top of things for me. I adore every move this movie makes. But for me, just looking at my list, it's about filmmaking. It's about spectacle. It's about land. It is about the Black experience,
nature, humans' relationship to animals.
It's about nature. It is about, yes, colonialism in some form or fashion. It's about film history. It's about how we live now. It's also fucking fun.
not a laborious film to sit through by any means.
We did our St. Louis Film Critics Association. I don't know how much we're supposed to talk about this. We do a category where it's scene of the year. I had 5 scenes from Nope. I'm like, they're just gonna think I'm an asshole.
I will say again, this isn't a top 10 film for me, but I will say that Nope was on my best scene of the year. So can you guess what was on there?
Gordy's home.
Yes, it was the aftermath of Gordy's slaughter.
Yeah, Gordy's home. Yeah.
The sound design in that scene with that popping, balloon
the pop
on the hot
and
lights.
nothing else, and
Oh,
just a
God.
kind of buzz of a light, and you being in the protagonist, who's actually the antagonist of the film, being in his shoes, looking, vision obscured, I'm getting chills, vision obscured, staring at the mystery and the spectacle, and it approaching you and giving you a fist bump.
Yeah. And the casting is great. One of Peele's strengths is casting, and like everybody's doing great in this film.
I can't think of anyone who's done a bad or unimpressionable job in any Jordan Peele film.
But Daniel Kaluuya doing like stuff he's never done before and just being amazing at it. Like I say, Stephen Yeun is. It again. This is a second watch film where you almost need to watch Jupe specifically.
Yep.
In the second watch, and the things that he's doing, amazing stuff.
And the relation between victimhood and the perpetuation of that.
Have you seen the series that he's like curating right now at Lincoln Center?
Oh, yes.
He has a great curriculum, like 10 films that influence Nope or that are an important part of Nope, and it's a great list.
Yeah, and I love how aware Nope is of film and film history and playing with it. Babylon is a film that has had a lot of people talking about film and film history, and I won't talk about the end of Babylon, but Babylon does this really big swing. And Jordan Peele does it in a cut. He does the exact same swing. Nope is my favorite film of the year. Yours?
I think you know.
Mine, the name of Nope is a negative.
Yeah.
Yours is
everything,
not
everywhere.
A negation.
All at
it's
once.
Everything, everywhere.
And it really was, I mentioned this earlier, like for me, it was between this and Decision to Leave. I sort of had them on, I went back and forth like for weeks about, it's going to be one of these. But as I'm watching them, I knew like the word #1 film of the year was flashing in my mind. Like, this is it. I know I'm watching the film that is elevating me, that is making my mind buzz. So it was really a choice between, ironically, considering Decision to Leave is about love, it's a choice between head for Decision to Leave or heart, Everything Everywhere. And I think I had to go with heart, just because, again, I knew when I was watching it, I'm gripping the seat, not because I'm tense, but because I realize I'm watching something special to me, that I know I'm going to be watching this movie over and over again.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, so everybody's been talking about this film. It's had its backlash. It's had its counter backlash already. Yeah. It's making a lot of awards buzz, so I don't want to go too much into it. But I do want to talk about one thing specifically. There's so much that's great about this film. I've loved the Daniels. I've been a Swiss Army man partisan for a couple of years now. And I love their direction. I love everything about this film, about how it's like, I could talk about the production design in the very first shot of Michelle Yeoh's apartment and everything that is going on in every detail. So it is a movie made to be picked apart in every possible way. But what I want to talk about as we end here is, I felt connected to this film in a way, and again, that I'm not a Chinese American, I'm not an immigrant, my parents weren't struggling people owning a laundromat. There's so many parts about this movie that should not connect with me, but yet this movie did connect with me very deeply, emotionally and psychologically, because it's the first film I can think of in a long time that really talked about the sort of post-internet, post-social media despair, and how that dovetails with a much older ancient problem of nihilism and depression, and particularly how that interacts with two different ideas. I mean, again, I suppose we're spoiling Everything Everywhere up here, but really it's about the conflict between two different kinds of negativity. The negativity of regret, of being a middle-aged person who's looking back and wishing things had been different and lamenting all the things that you didn't do and all the paths that you didn't take, and an adolescent feeling of just absolute nihilism, a feeling that when self-loathing becomes so intense that it becomes a loathing that envelops the entire cosmos and all universes. And I haven't seen, it's weird to talk about this movie in the same breath that I would talk about Melancholia or Woody Allen's Interiors or Cries and Whispers or Bellatar, or much more downer films, when this movie is sort of a lot of people are talking about it as a radically optimistic film. But for me, it hits a lot of that same sort of deep hypothalamus centers and talking about how we as human beings deal with the fact of our existence. And the Daniels are coming at it from a very specific age of like internet overstimulation, but it really is no different than things that filmmakers and all artists have been talking about for eons, right? It's about the idea of dealing with nothing mattering and how we confront that.
Do you think that it isn't mentioned in the same breath and that it has been so successful and found a really large audience is because it's ultimately hopeful about those things?
Yes, I do think that's probably part of it, but it's hopeful in a very sort of conditional way.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily. I think some people are accusing it of being like glib, particularly in its last few scenes, and I don't feel like
that's unfair.
And I say this as somebody who loves Paddington too. It's not. I'm not getting the simplistic moralism of just be nice to people, even though it has some of that exact same messaging embedded inside it. In terms of there are characters who say lines that are very Paddington lines, but I don't think it ends on that same. It's a movie like the movie itself almost deconstructs it in real time, where like Michelle Yeoh's character is trying to sum up and deliver a big monologue, and her daughter basically cuts her off and says, "This is not working. Like whatever you're trying to do here, this sum up is not happening." And
it has Raccacoonie in it.
It has Raccacoonie. I mean, how can you go wrong with Raccacoonie? Yeah. So I feel like this is the movie for me. Like I feel like I'm going to be revisiting. I've already own it on 4K. I'm going to be revisiting it over and over again. And I feel like the internet attitude about this movie is weird. And I sort of part of me doesn't want to be identified as an everything everywhere partisan, because there's this weird
contingency where they're like ultra fans.
Yeah, quasi Marv MCU fan weirdness
and
to
it's
it.
Like, did you all even understand that movie that you proposed?
The fact that
the
Daniels had to post and say, "Don't be crazy about our movie, guys." Like,
yeah, maybe rewatch it one more time and think about it.
I guess that's a testament to how good it is that even with my reservations about that, it's like I'm still comfortable being a film person who puts Everything Everywhere as their #1 film of the year, even with all that. So that to me just says how great it is.
I'm going to rewatch this fucking movie. Like I am so jazzed about movies right now. Every time we do the end of the year stuff, I'm like, yeah, I remember. That's why I love this shit. You have everything on a bagel experience. You have that experience that we were talking about with Jason. It's like while you're in it or right even after, you're like, that, I can't wait to be in that again, because that just means so much to me.
And I can't wait to tell other people about it and possibly scaring them off with how enthusiastic I'm being about it.
Right. Have someone who feels that very thing, you know?
I disagree that this wasn't a good year, because I found my honorable mention list is like really deep.
All right, fine. All right. Let's make it a good year. Let's put a cap on it and call it a good year. What do you got on the list?
All these are the films I sort of considered when I was building a top 10 list. After Yang, which we've talked about, Banshees of Inisherin, Benediction, which I think you mentioned earlier.
A film I'm very thumbs up.
You have some formal problems. Yeah.
The digital in it is so awful to me.
Bones and All, a film we talked about a few weeks ago.
Bones and All was in my top 10, got shuffled around.
Crimes of the Future, a movie I did not expect to like as much as I did. Just Cronenberg never misses.
Really? Oh, yeah. I expected you to love it.
I was reading some sort of negative pushback on it after its premiere, and it got me more nervous about it. But it's funny. It's a funny Cronenberg movie.
It is. His sense of humor is very unique. It is a comedy. And there are no like laugh out loud moments.
The Innocents, which is a film I've mentioned before, a Scandinavian horror film I love. The Menu, which we've talked about earlier on the pod. Prey, the Predator sequel. I can't not mention it. Oh, phenomenal.
Still haven't seen it.
Resurrection with Rebecca Hall, also on Shudder now. Rebecca Hall, somehow becoming our like art horror scream queen right now. In addition to directing movies.
Allison Williams is the Hollywood version now after Megan, and Rebecca Hall's performance in that is top tier. She was my #1.
Saint Omer, which you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
I love. Turning Red, which I don't think a lot of people are talking about at this point in the year, which if not for Mad God, I think would be my favorite animated film of the year. Watcher, Chloe Nukune. Of the Ty West partisans, I'm in the X camp, so I got to mention X, slightly over Pearl. And a film that we might be talking about soon on the pod called You Won't Be Alone, which is a Macedonian folk horror movie that nobody saw, which somehow came out of left field and wowed me. So, and I could probably name another 30 films after that. So what are some honorable mentions you want to rattle off?
You mentioned quite a few of them. I'm going to say some things you didn't mention. Elvis.
Oh, well, we're going to differ there, but okay.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
It is.
Elvis,
Speaking of maximalist filmmaking.
Maximalist, like Pashlin-esque, Sirkian, I think biopic that is not that at all, that I found fascinating, and about its very subversive telling. Yeah, interesting movie. A Nice in Love, that was a Q-Fest pick that I think is just kind of a light, fresh, sort of like Frances Ha plus Carol in the French countryside. 3,000 Years of Longing is a film I thought a lot of people would bring up at the end of the year, but I guess it's sort of gone to the wayside, and it's a film that I really love. Kimmy, that's a forgotten one. That is one I seriously considered.
Speaking of like master sinking, effortless three-pointers, like just doing awesome genre exercise. Yeah.
The same with like High Flying Bird a few years ago. The Woman King, Armageddon Time, Claire Denis, Both Sides of the Blade, her other film, and we'll talk about Stars at Noon on the next podcast. Well, one of those two. Catherine Called Birdie, Lena Dunham's film. This is a film that should have made millions of dollars.
I have heard a lot of folks on Film Twitter, at least, talking about that movie is like not getting enough love. So
this is newer, like a Lady Bird level stuff. This should be like teenage girl's favorite movie, and I don't think anyone's heard of it. I'm going to keep going. 3 minutes of lengthening. Hold Me Tight and Pleasure, two films that were shown at Webster. Hong Sang-soo, massive year. I still need to catch up with Novelist Film, but he had Introduction and In Front of Your Face. Yeah.
Let me pose a question to you at the end here. So pick something out of your honorable mentions that is or look through your list or whatever. A movie that you're pretty sure almost no one has ever heard of, from a filmmaker that nobody's ever heard of, like a just complete diamond in the rough in the best possible way.
That would be The Tale of King Crab.
You reviewed this like from Sundance last year, right?
From the Nashville Film Festival. And then I believe we played it at Slip. But I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it. It is a kind of Buñuelian triptych of fables, and it is the most gorgeous looking film. I would point people to that. That's on Canopy. You can watch it. And then I wrote about it for the Nashville Film Festival. You can see it on the lens at cinemastlouis.org. What about you? What's one that would surprise some folks?
So I reviewed a film earlier this year that I believe played at Webster. Nobody has seen it. Nobody's talking about it. I haven't seen it in a single one end of year list, but it blew me away. It's a film called Servants by a Czechoslovakian filmmaker named Ivan Ostrovsky. I probably horribly mispronounced that. A fascinating film. It's an auteur film. Like it's aesthetically, it's immediately arresting. This is a film about two Catholic seminarians in Czechoslovakia in 1980. So communism is still in effect. We're behind the Iron Curtain, and about them coming to seminary. They're like village friends who went into the seminary to avoid like compulsive military service in Soviet Czechoslovakia, and they're dealing with a state that is getting increasingly militant about cracking down on dissent as it comes from inside the Catholic Church being sort of one of the last like tiny bastions that's trying to push back against the regime. And it's this fascinating slow burn. Again, it's hard not to think of other Eastern European filmmakers in terms of the style, but it isn't what I would call a character piece. It's more like a mood piece. And just, again, nobody's talking about it. I watched it and I was blown away. Like, how has nobody's mentioned this filmmaker before or this film? Seek it out if you can. It's available. At this point, it's available pretty much to rent everywhere. I'm not a person who is sympathetic to the Catholic Church. Let me be clear about that. So if a movie can make me feel for Catholic police struggling against a totalitarian atheist regime. Like there's something there. It's a fascinating film about how authoritarianism works and how dissent is crushed and how dissent survives in the cracks under authoritarian regimes. Just a great film.
I guess it was a good year of movies. Whatever. Like, it took a while. It took a while for me.
There's a critical mass that has to be reached, and then you start going, oh yeah, this year didn't suck.
All right. This year didn't suck. Well, you'd think with that we would be done with that year, but we are not, because we have 2 more episodes to go in this miniseries. We're going to be talking about my pick, Stars at Noon. That's Claire Denis' film. It's available on Hulu. Andrew, sounds like you decided on...
I think we're going with You Won't Be Alone by Goran Stolevsky.
All right. Andrew, A. Wyatt76 on Letterboxd, Arachnophiliac on Twitter.
Yep.
You see how I got this shit memorized now?
Yeah. You don't have to ask.
I'm Crispy Retinas, back on Twitter for a second. Maybe by the time this is up, I won't be. Crispy Retinas on Letterboxd, Instagram, Twitter. And then you can find all of our words at The Lens on CinemaSt.Louis.org. I forgot it. And until then, don't forget The Lens on CinemaSt.Louis.org.